Hey guys, sorry I couldn't be there today, but you're gonna jump in. We're gonna talk about composite figures today, which are basically, you'll see, shapes made up of the smaller shapes we've already been doing. So it's not anything too much new, just an addition to what we already know. So go ahead and pause for a moment. Make sure you're getting your bell work done in your packet, and then we'll go over that here in just a minute before we jump into your notes today. Alright, so on the first one we notice it's boys to total. So we're going to start with 15, 2, and we want the total, not just to the girls. So 25, and then always simplify, and so we're at 3 to 5 as your final answer. 3 boys to 5 girls. Very good. Number 20, if you like the line, you can do the line. Otherwise, instead of dividing by 3/5, we're actually going to multiply by the reciprocal. So we're going to multiply by 5/3 to both sides, leaving us with A is equal to, remember a whole number can be put over 1. I notice I have a negative, so I'm going to write that so I don't forget it. Okay, and then if you want to cross simplify, 3 can become 1, 30 can become 10. So we're looking at negative 50 for our answer there. Well done. Notice, guys, you have a homework tonight, which is homework number 4. It's a worksheet in your packet. I would plan to do your work in a separate sheet of paper and stay very organized. That's going to help us out a lot today with our notes. Go ahead and turn with me into your notes to 9.6. Alright guys, so composite shapes. Composite shapes are really just larger figures or shapes that are composed. Okay, that's where the word composite kind of comes from. Larger figures and shapes composed or made up of smaller shapes. So like a house, if you had a two-dimensional drawing of a house, that'd be a composite because it has a square and a triangle. And you'll see some of those things today. But in order to be successful with finding the area, which is what we're going to be doing today, of composite figures, we need to remind ourselves of all of our formulas. So go ahead and pause the video, write down all your formulas, and I'm going to skip through that part, so make sure your formulas are done before we move on. Alright, as we jump into our first example, notice this is kind of a funky shape. We don't really have a specific name for it. It's a polygon with 5 sides. And so, but we want to look and see what kind of basic shapes. What are our shapes that we already know or that we've talked about? What is it made up of? Now, you can look at these in several different ways. So for example, if you were to maybe draw a line right there, then you could see that we have a trapezoid right here, a funky one, but we have one, and a rectangle. Or we could make a line right here, and we could have a triangle and a rectangle. So it doesn't really matter which way you break these down as long as you have enough information to help you with each of those shapes. I'm going to go ahead and keep it like this because I don't want to have to redo it. So we're going to break this down into a triangle, which means these are the formulas we're going to need, and a rectangle. Now notice here we're asked to find the perimeter, so that's just a quick review, adding all the outsides, right? Make sure you count all of them even if there's not a number there. And what I like to do is kind of trace the shape as I write down the number. So there's 16 plus 20 plus 4 plus 11 plus 15. All of them are accounted for, so we'll add those up, leaving us with a perimeter of 66 inches. Now, when it comes to area, again, we're going to break it up, and one way to look at it is just we're going to say the triangle plus the rectangle gives us the entire shape. Okay, so we're going to find them individually. So when we're first looking at the triangle, remember our triangle is 1/2 base times height, right? So we want to look at this. The way that we've cut this off, right here, remember base and height always meet at a right angle, and so you have to find the right angle. It's clearly not here, it's clearly not there, and so it actually happens naturally to be right here, and we know that as we make a rectangle too. We know this is 90, so the other side is obviously 90. And so I'm just going to write that in so we have that. And now we actually have to figure out on this one what our base and height are of our triangle, because they don't actually give us that information right away. So notice we only want this part of the height of the triangle, and we only want this part of the base. So we don't want to use 16. We need to use the 16, which is that whole line, minus the 4 that we have, which transpires over here as well. So to find the height of the triangle, we're going to do 16 minus 4. So then we have 12. So I'm going to come over here, 1/2 times 12. And it doesn't matter if I do it in the wrong order because multiplication is commutative. And now we want to look at that bottom piece. So if I know this whole thing going all the way across is the same thing as down here, so that's 20. I only want this part, which means I don't want the 11. I'm going to find this by doing 20 minus 11. Right on. So then we get 9 for that. I'm going to plug that in here. And I can find the area of my triangle. So our triangle's area is 54 inches squared. And we're not done, right? We still have to add in our rectangle. That one will be a little easier for us. And so here we just have a 20 by 4. And I do expect to see all of this work, so I know which shapes you broke it down into and how you came up with those answers. And so now we have 80 inches squared. So our total area for this composite figure is 134 inches squared. And voila, we're done. Now, if you'd like to go back, or if you were like, no, I don't want to do a triangle, and you did your trapezoid, it should work out to be the same thing. So, like I said, there's different ways to approach these problems. As long as you have enough information, then it doesn't really matter how you break that up. All right, looking at this next one, go ahead and write down the basic shapes and kind of draw our diagram, which is going to be like this. Just to kind of remind ourselves what we're doing. So go ahead and pause and write out your basic shapes and your diagram for how to find area. All right, now I don't expect you to do that diagram every single time, but here in the beginning stages, I want you to just kind of see where we're coming up with that. It'll get a little more difficult here in a moment. So notice we have a trapezoid and a rectangle. It's pretty much already divided for us, so it was pretty simple for us to see. So now we just want to start plugging things in. So with our area formula for the trapezoid, remember we have base 1 plus base 2, which would be 40 in this case, because notice this is part of the rectangle down here, so I can bring that up. And then our height, now this is the height of the rectangle. 55 is the height of the entire shape. So we need to find the height of just the trapezoid. And I'm sure you all know how we're going to do that, but we have 55 minus 25. 30, so then we can even add that in here. There we go, 30 yards. So then that can transpire over to our work, divide by 2, and then we're going to add the area of a rectangle, which is just 25 by 40. Go ahead and calculate that, and we will check your answer. I'll give you just a few minutes. All right, hopefully you got 1,575 yards squared as our final area for that shape. If you have any questions, let's go ahead and pause right now. Let's talk to one another, give each other a chance to explain anything that needs clarification, and as soon as you're ready, go ahead and resume the video. All right, guys, on this next one, this is kind of in the shape of like a kite. I'm kind of turn to its side. I'm going to let you go ahead and do this one on your own. So go ahead and pause the video. Make sure you talk about your basic shapes. Write out your diagram for your shape configuration, and then go ahead and calculate. Make sure you're showing all of your work. Check back here. Go ahead and resume the video when everyone's ready to move on. Alright guys, hopefully we did okay on this one. There were actually 2 different approaches, or maybe actually 3 different approaches you could have taken to this problem. You could have seen it as 2 bigger triangles, like I did. So the top one, and we know it's the same as the bottom one because of this inside distance and these shared distances. So what I did is I went ahead and found the base, which was 3 plus 6 times my height, divided by 2, but I wanted 2 of them. So really I got to cancel those 2 out, 9 times 4 giving me 36 inches squared. However, you could have looked at it as individuals, 4 different triangles, and you could have found that, still resulting in 36 square inches. Or you could have taken the larger approach here and done the triangle to the left and the larger triangle to the right. So again, lots of freedom in this, how you see it. But that's why it's really important to show your work, and even those diagrams kind of help so that I know what approach you're taking. So that way if you do make mistakes, I can help you in that. All right, let's move on to one of the more difficult ones now. Notice the directions on this one are find the area of the shaded part. But this whole figure, when we first look at it, it kind of looks like a big triangle, right? If we were to expand this out, now it looks like we have this huge triangle, but we have a piece of it taken out. And so we want to kind of think about that. Now, we could also look at it as just 3 little, maybe 2 little triangles and a larger triangle. And if we have enough information, you can solve it that way as well. But I want to show you a different approach because of certain problems that you might have later. And it's going to be a subtraction approach. So it's basically taking the whole figure and then taking out the part that we don't actually want by subtraction. So our basic shapes here are going to be a triangle and a rectangle. And we're going to do the big triangle minus the rectangle to get this weird shape here. All right, and so let's just jump right in. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and give you a chance to do that. So you go ahead and calculate all those things and then check back with your answer. So pause the video and give yourself a chance to work on that. All right, guys, let's see how we did. Notice in our triangle, our base all the way down here is 10. Our height has to be a perpendicular height from the very bottom point to the tip top, and that has to be that right angle, and so horizontal and vertical lines are meeting at those right angles. So that's where our base and height come from for our triangle. And then we want just the base here, the rectangle of 6 over 3. Don't be deceived with down here when you see that with the rectangle. So 6 by 3. And we do those calculations, leaving us with 22 square inches. Kind of fun, right? I love composite figures. All right, let's keep moving. I like to move and move it. All right, guys, here we go. Actually, I'm going to give you a chance to work on this. Find the area of the front of the building. So basically you're finding the area of the white space. The blue space is the windows. So what would it be like to paint the walls on the outside of this building without painting the windows is what we're trying to figure out. So go ahead and pause the video and write your basic shapes in your diagram, and then we'll check back before you start working on your homework. Alright guys, how'd we do? Finding the area of that bigger rectangle, 10 by 15. Subtract those 2 windows, which are both the same size. So I just found one of them and multiplied it by 2, leaving with 110 square feet of paint needed for that wall. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to write a quick summary down here. Describe how you find the area and perimeter of composite shapes. Give me just a 1 or 2 sentence summary before you start in on your homework. After that summary is complete, you do have homework time. You may listen to music if you have headphones, but make sure you're working silently and by yourself. Again, last thing, I would highly recommend showing your work on a separate sheet of paper just to keep yourself organized for homework number 4. Again, I'm sorry I couldn't be there, but good luck, and I will hopefully be back on Wednesday. Bye, guys.